Hi everyone, we're on finally. So welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. I've got Chris Warrior here with me, joining us, having a yarn tonight, spin them yarns with Chris. So I'd like to acknowledge where I am tonight as well. I'm a Noongar country, Dalrub Butati woman from far north Queensland. So welcome, brother, how are you?
Yeah, good. Loving it. Thanks for having me. Pretty excited. So I'm very happy to be on here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, good. No worries. So where are you at now and who's your mob and, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I just acknowledge I'm actually based in Geelong. So just acknowledge the Wadawurrung people here up in Geelong, which I've been residing here for the last 6 years. But for myself, I'm a Gulgara Wurrungal man from South Australia. So if anyone knows down the central west coast in between Ceduna and then all the way in between to Kubapiti. So all our family's desert to the seawater people in South Australia. So yeah, all the way over there. And if anyone loves all their seafood and their oysters, best ones out there from Ceduna. Oh yeah.
Lovely. Oh, that's good. We're nice and cold down there now too, eh?
Yeah, it's going to be real cold there now, especially down. Yeah, it's just really cold. The massive change of weather down here, especially in Victoria, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I love the heat. I can't stand cold. I love heat.
No, that's good. No, it's so good to have you on tonight. So last night we were talking with KJ and some really good discussion points there that came up. We had some really great comments as well. And a lot around our men and, championing men as well. So I really wanted to have you on tonight just to start to share that space for our followers who are always supportive of us and just to kind of save that space there as well. So, whereabouts are you from, like in terms of like, I know you're working in Victoria, you've been in the industry. How long have you been in the industry for?
Yes, I've been in the resources industry for about 11 years.
Yeah.
So it's a long time, but the roles that range from it used to when I actually started working in the pit as a pit technician. So you're sitting up in the pit, did the day shift, night shift stuff, and working along drill offsiders for a while. Then also worked in doing stuff with like travel and administration. So I had a business administration background for a while. Worked with travel, accommodation, and then now it's more community relations stuff, which I've done for the last 6 years, which I absolutely love, which is, stakeholder engagement. I love.
Yeah, that's really good. And so I guess it's been a really nice transition then from being in the pit and now to that role that can provide engaging with community as well. That must be really nice. Kind of gives you that holistic understanding of how that whole process goes as well.
Yeah, and that's what I take away. And when I'm talking with other Indigenous fellows as well, especially in the community, getting them to understand the whole process when you dig up the ground, or munda, we call it, when you're digging up that munda and you're transferring it up to the top, and how they process it, and where that goes into that final concentrate. So it makes you appreciate and understand where it all goes, so it's good.
Yeah, that's really good. And just really using that language and that as well. I think that's so important because it just really values, like the actual action that we're doing and the relationship that we do have with country. I think that's such an important concept that we have to talk more about and to really show or educate people that, we do really are trying to do things respectfully as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the driving things that we've pushed for. Well, me and a couple of other Indigenous mob on the side is to incorporate the language with a local traditional owner mob. So it's the acknowledgement and respect of that group. And you're going to have those issues where it is a good thing to do what you're doing in the resource sector, and you're going to have people where they're against it. So you've got to find the balance between where, you're educating people about the process and also having the language incorporated in everyday business for people to understand that, where the operation is actually working, and it's just a respectful thing and providing a cultural safe space for everyone too.
Definitely. Yeah. So what interested you with the industry as well? So you said you've been in it for a while. So what attracted you to Miami?
Well, to be honest, before I even started, I was working in employment before. So I was working in the employment sector. So I was helping with job seekers and long-term unemployed. And when one of the mines was actually starting as a project and during the construction phase, all these fellows were coming into me saying, oh, this mine's coming up, and they had all these opportunities, and it was just word of mouth, and it was up near where I was living, near Port Augusta and up near Cooper Pedy, which is the family. So it was more just a transition where they actually run these pre-employment programs, which they would have done, to provide greenies, as they call them, to bring them in the industries. And they provided like a 3-month course where they get them to train up and you do your site visit. So it was actually pretty attractive at that time, so it was pretty good. And it was actual, employment, like decent employment. And obviously the money's a big, the catcher as well. You realize the money and just what's involved with getting to mining. So that was pretty good for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, so moving from both Victoria now over to, from South Australia to Victoria, how's that been going? Like, you've moved your family over there as well. So you're like another now, I guess, settling into Victoria and like learning that whole new country and the new, like everyone there as well. So have you enjoyed, I suppose, moving from home over to Victoria, and like, how do you kind of cope with being away from home?
Well, it's tough. I mean, like you are home, and like you hear, we've had 2 kids here, my partner and I, so we've got a 5-year-old boy named Willem, and, like a 22-month-old girl, Imi Jala, and, they're both born here in Geelong. So they're Koreas, even though, and back home, so back home, with Geelong's a beautiful, beautiful place, but more for me that I've talked with my partner is the connection of countries. I miss my munda back home in South Australia, and I'm actually a board member with our traditional owner group, the Gawler Rangers Aboriginal Corporation. So to be able to still be connected and be involved with the transition of land management and how it affects our corporation, I can still, lucky enough to go back to South Australia for our meetings. But no, I still have the urge to want to go back to South Australia. There's always that connection, and, flying in and out is a massive challenge, especially with a roster. We do like a week on, week off, so 8 and 6. And yeah, it's a massive challenge, and I guess it's just managing yourself and the self-care aspect of, okay, since you're traveling back interstate, you don't get the times where the flights are coming at the right time, and if you leave your site about 3:30 in the afternoon, you don't get home, and I knock on my door back in Victoria with 2 flights about 11:30 that night. So it's draining, and you don't get a sleep in, not with a 5-year-old and the little girl. They'll come wake you up.
And you're home for for those few days, and you gotta travel back to site as well. So no, it's good. And how have you been going with everything, like now with COVID and stuff happening? How's that been? Like, how have you been managing that?
Yeah, so it's if you look around the country, it's pretty stressful, and also within the resources sector, they're looking to adapt ways how they can manage it and restrict the infection. And, as it's like a close-knit on the village, on the site. So I guess they look at changing rosters. So like essential staff will be all the production, maintenance, underground, the pits. They are the ones that still have to stay on site and look at doing longer rosters. So they'll do like a 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. WA is doing it, SA's been doing it, and a couple over in Queensland as well. So keep them on longer, trying to stop the spread. And, people like myself, and there's at least other people that's not classed as essential personnel, you get to get work for home. So, it sucks for a lot of people, but for my case personally, to be able to have a break and not fly back home every week and go through airports and see the same security all the time, I get to be home, which I've been for the last almost a month now. And I love that. I absolutely love it at home with the kids, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think, and so we've connected as well previous to this, because I wanted to learn more about Black fitness and everything that you're doing there, because health is very important for our industry. So maybe can we talk a little bit more about that? So what is Black fitness to you, and why did you launch that group?
Yeah, so I've run this page on the social media platforms with Instagram and Facebook called Black Fitness. And the reason why I started, I'll go back to the reason was, working in the mining industry, and the people, especially in this resource industry, the amount of food that they give you is ridiculous. It's free. So you're like walking past with a plate and you're filling it. And I blew out to about 122 kilos. So
yeah, wow.
was just massive, and you don't realize it. You're just constantly eating, and you do your long days, and that was a comfort for me. I didn't go to the gym or anything. The comfort was the food, which is always good, in moderation, of course. And then it's just realized that was a coping mechanism for me, was to just eat and eat and eat. You deal with the stresses with family at home. You deal with not to be able to go back home and getting on your flights back to interstate. It's tiring, so when you're away from your family and, your kids can't see you, you do your video chats, but you just miss going. That was a coping thing for me. So I used to eat so much and purchase soft drink, and because it's all cheap there, so you were just purchasing and absolutely blew out. And I wanted to make a change, because, some fellas were a bit shame. When they say shame, gonda means shame. So some people were quite gonda to say something to me. And, you get a bit bigger and you realize that the tops, especially what's really shame is you ask for a larger top, which has happened to me on the mine site. And it's always a joke. Oh, you're going to get big in the mining industry, which some people, that's just what happens. You're just eating so much food. But it had to change the lifestyle. And the amount of stuff I was eating, wasn't managing everything at home like I was doing. I was living by myself, wasn't cooking healthy foods, which I was living in Port Augusta. I'm an avid gamer. I love playing games online, but, that's a bit toned down a bit now. You just manage it with the kids. But back then it was just living by yourself, no partner, just an absolute crappy lifestyle, no exercise, constantly doing it for that long, to the point where there was a major tipping point where I actually have type 2 diabetes. And then that was the point where I was like, that's absolutely, it hits you, when you get someone tell you that's the case. And you just go in so much denial. And then eventually you just have to look for ways to get back on the healthy aspect of changing your lifestyle. So the reason why I started the page is I was actually looking online for a page for other blackfellas to provide inspiration. I was like, okay, well, I'm stuck here in the mine and trying to look for other mob to provide support. Is there any other people going through the same thing that I'm doing, working in the industry, eating really poorly? How do I get out of this rut? So I did find one fellow, and I give him a shout out, who was that person to give me that jump start to start that fire, was Jeffrey Morgan up in New South Wales. And he does his lifestyle changing program there. So I started that with him, and that pretty much jump started where he provided these programs online. So, and he tracks you. And once that got going, I was like, okay, well, I need to keep maintaining it once the program's finished. So sitting down talking with some family back on the mine and back at home, I was like, why can't we create a platform for social media where, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders can share inspiring stories? And, if they're just starting out or they've actually gone through a particular time in their journey, other people can be inspired, you can mentor them. And that's how the page started. It was more, okay, I want to look for blackfellas who's got stories like me or that can help other people. And it was a major network and connecting, and I'm happy how far it's gone. And but the page is not just, doesn't just happen for me. The people that's supporting the page and allowing to share their amazing stories that inspire me every day as well. It's just, they're the people that make the page what it is. It's just not me behind the scenes there.
And congratulations on that as well, because I've been following it also, and I've shared a couple of those stories across to our IWIMRA page, and there's been so much traction behind it. This really does show that there's a lot of people do resonate with the conversations that you're having, and reaching out as well to see, well, how can they, if they're looking for some help, advice, or if they're looking for how they can start to deal with things. How do you do it safely and within a group that is going through the same thing as well? Because that's the biggest difference. Like if you're with someone that you're familiar with, that's a safe conversation that you can have, and you actually start to action towards it as well, which is really good.
Yeah, and that's what it was, and especially if I don't have the answers, I can't provide anything. I'm not a personal trainer, I'm not a dietitian. It was more of the fact that we've created a platform for people to network with the right people to get you to the end of your journey. Plenty of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders that are nutritionists and diets that can provide the program. So if we had, which is an amazing example where people will message on the page and ask for support, we've got the people ask, okay, where are you based? And there is someone there that I could refer them to. So, you know, and especially supporting an Indigenous personal trainer or nutritionist or someone that can provide a program. So it was just supporting other black fellas too, which I love. Good stories.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it just really provides those role models out there as well for people to reach out to, and, you know, for children as well, to see that, you know, it is about healthy lifestyle and healthy living as well. Especially within our industry, we're such a, you know, we're the majority of us that are operators that are, you know, have those 12-hour shifts that, you know, easy food is probably not always the healthiest food either. So having those conversations is very, very important as well. And so managing the page as well, and I suppose your work-life balance, like how do you do that with a full-time job? You've got kids as well. Like, how's your mental and emotional well-being around that?
Yeah, you got to find the right balance, but there's no easy formula for it. It's just, you just have to maintain and give time for yourself to it, you know. And I guess it's you know, I travel a lot, so yeah, there's plenty of time where I'm by myself and I'm always traveling. And also just with the times with the kids, you know, and it's not, if it wasn't for the page, if it's just managing your health in general, you know, like if you've got to deal with the kids, you know, incorporate them with your workout, take them for a walk, you know, it's all those sort of things. You just got to find a balance that suits you. And, you know, there's shift workers out there, there's people in the industries, there's people where, you know, there's single parents, you know, they're trying to figure out ways. So there's all different solutions for different problems, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so what's been kind of like your go-to tool or go-to kind of mindset that you need to get into those days that you're feeling a bit kind of slack, or you don't want to, you know, you're just kind of over it as well?
I actually look, yeah, I've had days like, you know, I had days where I'm just saying I can't be bothered. Like I'm just like, fuck it. I'm like, I'm done. You know, there is like, especially dealing, you know, like if you've got work or stuff that's going on and you're just like, no, I just want to get some chocolate and chips and just chill out and just watch a movie, you know. And you do get days like that. And I just want to stress, do not put so much pressure on yourself when you want to do that, you know. If you're doing that every day and you're really stressing yourself out, where that's a coping mechanism like I used to do, that's going to hurt you that way. But I guess it's just looking back why you started. Just always go to the start and look at why you started that journey in the first place. And also, like myself, I've got people that make me accountable. I've got some cousins that, you know, I'll send them messages, create a little group chat where, especially in this time where everyone's isolated and you can't really go out and do your group stuff, you know, create a group chat on Facebook or Instagram and, you know, make sure to go, okay, we're going to do this workout, or, you know, share your food as well. So it makes yourself accountable. And, you know, blackfellas, man, they'll whip you. They'll know, guys, what are you doing? No, you're going over there. No, you're going back here. You know, that's what you do.
Yeah, that's a really awesome friendship group. And I think so. How's isolation? You know, because now obviously you've changed the dynamics of how we're engaging with everyone. Like, how are you keeping, you know, still up to date with that accountability as well, and exercising and all of that?
Yeah, it's totally different. I miss the gym. Like, there's like millions of people that miss the gym. It's ridiculous. Like, I miss it. I seriously miss the gym. But, you know, there's good workouts which we've got on the page as well, that when other mob are sharing their live workouts. You know, people are using, if you don't have the proper home equipment, you know, there's alternative ways where you can do body workouts. There's good YouTube videos that we're watching at the moment. So there's a guy named Joe, the body coach, which is a UK PE teacher, and we do that with the kids in the mornings. So we get the kids involved, and, you know, we get a couple of little heavy barbells that are sitting around. But it's just, yeah, it's totally different. But you just have to make do with what you got. And I'm having a lot of fun just walking with the kids, and I've got a bike. You know, so we're just riding around, and we're actually doing something every day outside of the house, which is really good.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so good to read those stories there as well. What has been your most memorable story from the page that you've got? So,
the most memorable one. Yeah, there's the most. I can't even pick it. It's just, there was a guy that actually worked it's only one. I can't just pick one. There's too many because there's so various stories that influence people why they've changed their whole lifestyle to be healthy. There's some quite grim stories. There's people that's actually come out of DV and they're looking for ways to get out, and it's a coping and also to build their strength up for themselves, and it's a way to release that stress. And there's other mob that are other in the industries, mining industry, where they share a similar story with me and love seeing what their end result. And it's not just the end of saying, okay, we've lost the weight, that's it. It's maintaining that lifestyle continuously. And then also that's another like an inspiration for another fella in that industry as well. So I've talked to so many fellas in mining back in South Australia where the pages help them change their lifestyles, and that's what makes me feel good, is knowing that the pages help someone in some sort of way. That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think really important for that mental wellness piece as well, because finding that support on site and knowing that there's that online help as well, and just having I guess the confidence to go up and ask the question and to say, yes, I'm not, no, I'm not okay. Like, how can we start to kind of have that as the normal conversation? So, like, as yourself as well, being a black fella, like, how do you find yourself? Like, how have people on your page really helped build that confidence and that conversation around mental wellness as well?
Yeah, well, there's always a stigma, especially with men, where okay, no, I'm not going to the doctors. There's always this thing to say, no, we'll worry about it later. So on that aspect is we're getting a lot of the fellas to say, just snap out of it, go talk to someone, and if someone wants a bit of help about their sort of lifestyle, there's people on the page that can do that. Obviously, I'm not the person that can do everything. It wasn't designed to be that. It was designed to be, that central point for networking, to give the people, that help. Some people might be a bit ashamed going to that health professional. If you've got some people like a Jeffrey Morgan or, someone in another state that can provide that support, or even mentoring your health journey and managing those goals that you want, that's what it is. And it doesn't have to be like, there's always a thing with fitness where they go, oh, you've got to have a six-pack or you've got to be doing body comps. It's not about that. It's about, like you're saying, the mental wellness of just being active. Ride the bike, go for a kayak, hang glide. I don't know how many black fellas hang glide, but go do that, It's just all these little things where, just taking your time. And you got to remember too that besides the quit smoking stuff as well, as the kids are watching everything. You're going to think about the little kids are watching what you eat, how you eat, how much you be active, because they'll follow. And so my two kids are the biggest inspirations, because they hold me accountable. I tell you, they, if I'm sitting around, or if I sometimes I'll just grab a soft drink and a chocolate, they'll be like, I want chocolate, and I'm like, no, it's not for you. And they'll be like, why? And I'll be like, well, it's bad for you. And I'm like, oh, why am I having it? Yeah. It's all those little things. So there's a holistic approach, and the page just provides inspiration. And I do get feedback from people, which I'm very appreciative. So thank you. Where they would share how the page has helped them, and they just said that the main motivation is because of the inspiring stories on the page, which makes me feel so good. And that's what the goal was.
Yeah. Definitely. So how many people have you got on the page now, and like, how do you plan to grow that as well, like across to other black followers?
There's about 4,500 followers on Instagram, and it's just growing. And it's just providing more inspiring stories. We're going to look at putting some more like healthy food stuff, where a lot of people from other organizations that can share healthy food tips for the mob. And especially while being in the isolation, it's a good point to people cook more healthy foods, and then have people share those as well. So it's just providing more inspiring and consistent content to the page, and people just sharing it and adding more stories. And that's what we want from it,
Yeah, definitely. I think like with like medicinal, foods and all that kind of stuff as well, I'd really like to learn more, like, I guess personally as well. Like things you have in your garden is actually medicinal, not just some shrub. I feel like there's like a bit of a build up or a need for that now as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that develops on your end.
Yeah, there's one, we've talked about that with a lot of nutritionists, and especially with Indigenous nutritionists on bush foods, and how they can be incorporated in your, what people should be going back to the natural remedies anyway. You know, you've got your high protein meals like the kangaroo or myrtle, you know, you've got those, and your oily fats with it as an emu. You know, people be eating those sort of stuff in your high plant-based meals. We should be doing that anyway. You know, like it should be incorporated, but also you've got to think about the regions that we are. You know, you look at the Noongar mob, what's over in that region compared to South Australia or Queensland. Different climates produce different foods, you know, so that's is something that should be pushed on a lot more for our mob. Is we've got so much healthy foods, and people are doing that anyway. You know, you're going to the bush and doing all that stuff and teaching the young fellas. So it's pretty good. There's so much healthy stuff out there, which is good.
Yeah, definitely. And you're finding that as well, like and I guess a bit of a tool where you can start to teach and reconnect back to culture and to country as well. That's so important for us to keep that knowledge. So
yeah, and people, you know, finding you going back to where your family is and getting that knowledge, you know, because I'm in Victoria, so you know, when eventually this restriction gets up, we'll be heading back to South Australia, back to the Gawler Ranges, and you know, you're learning about all the plant stuff, all the medicinal stuff, all the healthy stuff you can have for teas. There's, you know, all the bush medicine, all the lovely foods and stuff. I just miss, and you know, especially in I just miss being home. Then you can just learn all those things back there. So, and I'll take some stuff and bring it back. So, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I wish you all the success with that page, because I think it's so important, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that as well across to our team here as well, because yeah, it is important, and it is good just to have that that information around healthy living and just those inspirational stories as well. So talking about work, and you know, back to kind of that space when you're on site, and we're talking about like I guess communication and professional development and everything like that. So you've recently been involved in a mentoring program. So I guess, you know, like being on site and being there now, viewing from that community employment and engagement perspective, what are the things that you're seeing in terms of, you know, engagement in there and like employment in that space?
I can give a couple of examples. One of them was a bad example, and I guess it's about learning. Oh, excuse me. It's about learning providing that cultural safe workspace. So it's a cultural safe space for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders within the industry. So there was an example where they'll provide a pre-employment program for the APY lands. So Arnago Pitangara Yankunyara group up in the APY lands, if people aren't aware of, you know, they did a program up there where they selected 10 male and females within that group. English is like their second or third language, you know, so you've got to think about, you know, all the ways how we're going to incorporate getting these greenies back into, getting them into mining, and then incorporating how they go in there. Also, one of the examples that happened is what people have to be mindful of and quite culture sensitive about is with the AP Wildlands they brought in, one of the incidences when they've separated all the guys and they'll put them in different groups is, you know, especially with Australian culture in general, where, you know, they'll go, "Hey boy, how you doing, boy?" Most of these young men, they're actually traditional men in their own right through ceremony. So calling them boy is quite disrespectful. So we would have all of these mob that were, you know, walking around complaining, and they would not talk with any of their shift supervisors because they kept saying, "Hey boy, can you do this?" And they were being quite, you know, angry and snappy back. So I guess people didn't understand about what sort of the risk management aspects, especially in the cultural space, even though the safety with your PPE and stuff in there, but it was managing that cultural nuances that's in that group. Why is it so important to have that? Because those things impact majorly, where some people didn't even want to come back from their next swing, you know. So you know, it's managing how we bring and look at Indigenous people back into that resource industry, but also highlight what are the barriers of where that mob will come from the community. Are they good with the literacy and numeracy, which is one of the issues that's, and also the barriers that we're trying to overcome and provide that assistance to them. And then, and also the other aspect is one of the things from in communities budget. If you're going to put these fellows that have never worked at all into a mining job, when their average is way more, their salaries are more than the average what you get in a normal city. If you pay them that amount of money and then send them back to the community, they're multimillionaires back in the community. So it's finding the balance between budgeting, how you manage that lifestyle, and also retention is the big thing. And these are the little mitigating factors you got to do. It's not just, okay, let's put a job out, give an interview and bring them in and that's it. It's not it's so much to drag to actually put in all these little mitigating factors and monitoring that for the Aboriginal women and men on the site, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be like that holistic package, and it's not always. And I guess it's a partnership with everything that's available out there. Because I know we had a yarn with Phil from First Nations. He was there and he was talking about financial literacy and everything like that. And it's important just to understand that, just to see, like you're so right. Like these people, these opportunities are available for people who have never really managed these amount of funds, before. And and it's not always that. There's a lot of people out there that have poor financial literacy. It's just about how do we actually access these services and understand it as well. Because I think that's a big thing. There's a lot of services there, but to access them, it's practical and it's comprehensible. I think that's the biggest barriers there. We got a question over here. I might just flick that out. It's from Tina. Thank you very much. Tina, really would love to get into this workspace after 20 years of public service. Any advice?
Okay, Tina, nice. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I get asked all the time about how do you get into the mining industry. I have had that every week for the last 5 years. Every week I'll get a question about it. And the best thing they're doing is besides look at all the labour hire companies that there is jobs that you can get in that don't require that, what do you call it? I'm stuck now. What am I thinking about? The specialty roles or the engineering roles. Obviously, that's not the background with engineering's. Yeah. So it's just getting in onto the site with any of the other jobs, and then you can. It's actually once you get your foot in the door, whether if that's going to be housekeeping with a with a contractor that provides the housekeeping and the food managing services at a camp, you get your basic entry level roles. Once you get into them, which is actually quite, it's actually quite easy once you get the right labour hire company and depends what company you're with, then it's easy to actually navigate to the other roles around site because you're already on site. You've already been, they always have a rigorous induction process, which is really annoying, but considering the safety aspects and they want you to get home safely to your family, that's what that is. It's once you've done the whole thing once and you've gone on site, you've been inducted through that basic level role, and then it's easy for you to navigate around site easier once you get on there. That's what I've always noticed. Yeah.
And I think I'm definitely going to challenge you on that because that's like my biggest frustration, and I know that as well because I hate saying, oh no, just go put your name down for entry level roles or housekeeping or cleaning. It's like no, but how do we change that? Because I think that's so important because 20 years in the public service industry, there's a lot of skill there as well. What can you do in that administration space where you can actually, contribute your skills and knowledge to that.
Yeah, no, and it is. And what it always happens, especially Tina there, you'll get, it usually depends what manager you get. Everyone's different on different sites and different people have different views of what they think what needs to be happening in their site. I know it's not directly answering and it sounds annoying, but it is true. No, it is true, Flo, where if there would be admin roles where you got shift processing admin people there, you'll need some mine administrators, but everything has to do with timing too, I've seen people go in there that don't have mining experience. You don't have to have mining experience to get into mining. People are always having that, you know, obviously with the specialty roles in engineering and underground and pits and ROM and processing, you know, there's still roles you can still get in without having no mining experience, you know, because how did people get there in the first place? You know, I've been there for that long. I had nothing whatsoever. But Flo makes a very good point. It doesn't have to be an entry-level role. There is, especially with your 20 years of public service, you know, you're obviously very experienced and have a lot of knowledge, and there's plenty of roles to do within that space. If you get the right time, the right person, and the right opportunity in there, it's, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's demands of the business as well, really. Like, you know, if you're ramping up, then, you know, going to take as many bodies as you can. But then if there's a time where, you know, like now, it's a little bit more frozen as well. And she also just said, just learn to make traditional damper. So
yeah, now I want damper now. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, true. It'd be good weather for it down there, hey?
Oh, that'd be lovely. Yeah. No, that's yeah. Good. I now want damper. Thanks, Tana.
What time is it there? It's what, 8 o'clock down there?
We're down here. It's 8:35. Yeah, 8:35 here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, but how are you damper at 1 o'clock in the morning if I made it? I don't care.
Go make damper and then like Facebook Live it back. I'll take a photo.
Yeah, just thought, yeah. Yeah, I'll go make some damper. Yeah.
No, that's really, yeah. And thank you for that advice for people, because yeah, it's a question that we get all the time. It's like, how do we get into industry? And it's like, okay, well, let's look at your resume. Like, what have you got on there? What have, like, how are you actually doing yourself like that? And then, you know, answering those, you know, selection criterias and all of that as well. But you're so right with, I guess, registering everywhere and then making sure that you're in, you know, in those talent pools, and you're registering for those updates and all of that as well. So, and it is, you know, being proactive on your end as well. It's not just sitting there and waiting. It's like, okay, well,
yeah, it's just
go and think.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Tina, is you just have to keep an eye out with, you know, what's going on, you know, wherever you're based, you know, what mines that are in your area, who the company is, have a look on their websites, you know, go on the career ones and the seeks.com.au and look at what's there, and also look at the, you know, what they're looking for. And then you just have to be very proactive and keep looking around. And it does help too if you do have someone that you know or a family friend, because they can actually hear about roles that are inside without, you know, that's going on, you know, so they know as well. So, you know, that's another tip as well. Figure out who's already in there. Oh, there you go. She just said you're in Brisbane. Yep. So have a look around, you know, especially around over there in Queensland, and then do it. Yep. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, so your experience in the industry. So what's been your most, I guess your most exciting role as well? What's been your most memorable time so far today in your experience in your role?
Oh, well, because of the role within community relations, you know, we're dealing with stakeholders, you know, you're dealing with, you know, the pastoralists, you're dealing within the regional areas, you know, with the nearest townships, and we deal with the traditional owners for that mob. So I love the fact that I can be the gate and provide that cultural safe place, and also educating with cross-cultural awareness courses that we bring in a facilitator to work with them. So we're educating the sites on, you know, just the whole Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture and how it impacts on people in mining. You know, obviously NAIDOC's not going to happen this year, but, you know, there's still different ways where we can still educate people on site. So we provide a committee on site, and, you know, make sure that we get the right people to come in, and we provide the information. And, you know, it's I just love that we can provide that information, and also changing people's perspective in mining. You know, you get a lot of old, you know, they call them old dogs. You know, there's a lot of old, Flo knows what I'm talking about. You get all these fellas that are just stuck in they're just stuck in their ways. You know, they don't, you know, they've been in mining for like 20 plus years, and all these snotty-nosed young people coming in from universities trying to tell them what to do from non-engineering, they'll just be like, oh, I wish you could hex that out, you know. So, you know, it's all about changing people's perspectives. So I've chat to people, and just probably one of the highlight I love, besides providing the information and being the cultural awareness go-between and providing the safety, is changing people's perspectives and giving them an opportunity to talk to another Indigenous person, and then letting them, and now we've had two people where they would not have never sit next to each other on a bus, but they go drinking in the mess, and they'll have a beer and talk shit to each other. you know.
Yeah.
So and that's what it is. So it's inviting someone else into that cultural family group, and that's what you want, you know.
Yeah, I agree, especially for people who aren't from that country as well. That's what I found, because both places I've worked, I'm not from those places. So I think number one priority for me was always, how do I connect to the traditional owners of that place? Firstly, to say, I'm here and thank you for having me, and really
Yep.
like going back to like that your own cultural safety as well for yourself, because that's all your own responsibility, and your like something that you definitely need to conduct before feeling okay with everything. And then just talking a little bit before about employment and opportunity. Now with COVID, and there's been some talk around people now thinking more of automation and all of that. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, one of the questions, we've been getting updates every week, and there is concerns for people that are actually working offsite, like myself, wondering, once they've got this all done and you can actually do a 2-and-2 roster, is do you really need my role? People are feeling very vulnerable and wondering, okay, well, if I'm here, do you actually need my role? This is another test where companies are actually looking at what's sustainable. Realizing that, the executives and the board will go, well, we've been running this for 3 months and the business runs fine. We're still making profit margins. The market feels confident about how we are as business. And they'll be like, well, we actually don't need those 10 people. And people are very worried about that at the moment, because you have no idea what's happening. And that's the uncertainty that what happens in mining, if it's a quite fluid industry. There's amount of people that go in and out where the average only stays for about 2 years and then they go. So, if you've got automation and people, and they're starting to do that already, especially with trucks underground, you don't need as many to service the trucks, where you can only have a couple and only one's driving, and it's, if it's a way to save costs, but you also cut people out. And I guess you've got to find the balance where, you're still trying to provide people livelihoods, and there's always going to be that tug of rope thing in between, is where do you find the middle, and how do you do it as a business,
Definitely now, like, encouraging people to be in entry-level roles, or, all of that, it's just very, how do we stay ahead of the curve, really? How do we start to now develop ourselves professionally with what we've got to still be valid when things start to change, because there's still have traditional owners that will be on site, that will be employed or engage with the business from some perspective, but for everyone else who's not in that agreement, or can do anything like that, what are we going to do?
Yeah, and I guess it depends what sort of role that you want to be in there. Everyone's role is different. Engineers, you can cut that back if they wanted to, and you can only have a certain amount of engineers run maintenance, and electricians and warehouse. They're obviously quite essential. You need that to run certain plant and machinery that's going around. As long as you've got stakeholders that need to get supported, the community space is still always going to be there. You're still going to affect whatever regional or community that's in there. So, it all depends what role it is and what site wants to do at that time.
Definitely, and I guess like staying above that, or staying in front of that. It's like, well, how can we develop now professionally? Like, what kind of courses we can get into? Like, what kind of things we need to start learning? Because it's definitely going to be a lot of people that are going to be not out of jobs, but it's just like, how do you improve your opportunity to grow with the industry and with the business and remain valid? So it's really thinking about what opportunities are out there now, and maybe even going back to study, or how do you start to incorporate part-time study in your role now?
Yeah, study's always going to be a good thing, that you kind of freed up for the people that are working at home. Besides with the kids, finding the balance, finding some study, especially doing the resource sector. Look at what's available, and then also look what other companies are doing on how they can support their workers, or what they do in the community. Figure out what courses. I honestly don't have a clue on the top of my head what the courses they would be. But, I could find that out. Flo would probably, would have some context as I would. Just need to go out and have a look, So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. I just need to quickly go. I just need to charge my computer again. This happened to me last night, but I guess if you'd like to just share a little bit more about, like, male champions are very important to us. So, like, what do you do on site, and what do you do to, like, empower the men that's in your network?
Yeah, so we do. So I actually do the mentoring on site. So for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders on site, so providing retention, and if they've got where they don't feel comfortable talking to some people, they can come and talk to myself, and we've got some other ambassadors that will provide that mentoring service. I think it's for some people, and it doesn't have to be just males, just females, just whoever wants the support for blackfellas is having someone to talk to. They want to talk to another blackfella, and there could be some issues that they don't feel comfortable talking about, and and that's the service I'm there to provide for people on site. Is okay, what issues do you have? Is it is it a professional or personal one? And even with the health and wellbeing spaces, with the black fitness stuff as well, some of the fellas know about the page and they just want a bit of a kick at the butt or a bit of inspiration. And but one of the big things that they do is, when you're working on any resourcing sector, the blackfellas, if you go in the mess, they usually will go sit with what I've seen is they'll go sit down in the mess, all in the little corner with each other, so they can talk gunna, and and that's what it is. Like, they look forward for going back to having a mess, because you can have a drink, or people don't drink, just go sit in the mess and catch up with some of the mob, and there's sort of a little thing where the older guys that are in the industry, we call them jammals in our language. Jammals is the older respected ones, so the jammals, and and they're the ones that look after the young ones. So when there's young ones that come on site, they kind of take that caring role to make sure they're being looked after. And when you say greenie, it's just it's the person that's coming into mining, Tina. Like, you'll come in and go, okay, you don't have no mining experience, and that first daunting walk when you walk on site with your lunch bag, and you can tell when you're sitting in the mess who's brand new just by the way they're walking. So, yeah, like, we'll be sitting here eating. I'll be like, I'll be like, look there, look, who's that fella? And they'll be looking up, who's that there? You're spotting who these other fellas are, but you if you know that they're new, you get up, and that's what my job is. I'll go up and say, hello, how you doing? Where's the crib? Yeah. And you're just making sure that to catch up with them and provide them support. And that's part of the mentoring aspect, and providing that support network within, especially within that resourcing sector. It's really important to create those safe cultural spaces where if they've had a shit day at work, besides getting a nice feed, that these fellows are back in the mess where you can sit down and have a yarn. And that's what's really important, Yeah.
It's just like really creating a community for everyone to feel comfortable and to, like, feel that family space as well. Because I think for me, that's what I've really found is that, once you start to get familiar with people, and I think that language piece is so important. Like, if I go out and I see other TI people and I just, can start to talk language with them, like, it's so exciting. Like, everything just is better, instantly, which is really good.
I was saying really quickly, we had one Torres Strait Islander fellow come up there, and he was a beautiful fellow. There was a husband and wife. They were driving trucks in the mine sites, and he brought turtle to site. And for NAIDOC, so we got for the NAIDOC, and he brought all this stuff up. Yeah, and he had this nice curried little, he had this little spice thing in there, and you know what blackfellas like. It's like, nah, I can't tell you my secret. He had this little thing, but for NAIDOC, he brought his food over to where the desert was, so all the desert mob trying turtle for the first time. It was just like incorporating two different cultures, and then it was beautiful. So he brought all this beautiful turtle, and we cooked it up, and it was a good bridge. And it wasn't just for black fella from TI to Aboriginal Indigenous mob. It was literally, we had a lot of white fellas sitting down there too, and that never tried it. And you're sitting, and that's what the maize food, you're sitting having all this maize around this table, is it brings people together, and that's what that piece did. Like, that Peter brought that one bit of food there, and it brought in, there was like 20 people where they would not have associated any other time until he bought that when we cooked on the barbie. It was so good, so good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And so since then, is that what you've been doing for NAIDOC Week, just having like a big cook up with everyone to bring their own food?
Yeah, we're looking to bring. So one of the things we've never done in the past, and we were going to do it this time, and obviously can't do it now, but we're going to have kangaroo. So we're going to have model cooked kangaroo tails in the fire, right near the mess, and obviously with the risk assessments and all the stuff that's in there, it's crazy. It's like so, and all those black fellas, you're trying to explain, oh, why can't we just dig a hole and just cook marrow there? And I said, nah, weird, you can't. I said, you know how many documents I have to sit down and do risk assessments and people to review? I said, no, I know it's not that it's easy, but no. And the GM approved it, which is really good. So we were going to do that and provide the elders to sit around and cook it for us, and that was the sharing story element, is having the food around. So when I knew that NAIDOC was cancelled and all this, that was the one thing that I got so annoyed about. I was like, we can't sit around the fire, and we can't do that. So it's food cooked in the fire with a damper, from Tina.
With that damper, hey. No, definitely, and I think really, for most sites across Australia, I suppose, with everything that disengagement from community and all of that. So it should be. I'm looking forward to next year more than anything, because I know now that we're pretty much going to go without for the year. It's like next year everyone's just going to celebrate extra hard for this year, which is really good.
Yeah, and I guess and that's another way is how we now, because all this is going on, is how we're going to manage and provide this NAIDOC stuff with all this restricting going on, is how we're going to do it. So it's making people think outside the box, which is really good.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And like I said, once we get to connect with community again, I think it's going to be so exciting. I can't wait to, see family and friends again on site, but then connecting back to everyone and just seeing how they're going, because I think it's so important to just to show up and be there in person. I think, that connects organically, right?
Oh, I love when the day's finished. I just love going to the mess, and you'll catch up with all your, I got family up there too. So if you catch up with all your family, and we literally just talk shit in the corner. We sit there for like 2 hours, and we sit right in the back because we know we're going to be the loudest laughing, and we just it just echoes, and and it's like, and that's what it is. It's just, you feel, no matter if you've had a crusty day, if you've got family and friends to sit around there and do that, because I wouldn't last there that long if I didn't have them fellas there, to be honest. You just, and you do need that that presence of just other black fellas. It's just so good to have that.
I think, and just having the opportunity to be and just to celebrate your own, not exclusion, but you do need your own space, and it's okay for you to have that space and make it. Awesome. So we're 5 minutes to go.
Yeah,
and then we're done pretty much. But I would just like to say, I know, thank you so much for being on board. We're definitely going to do some more work together. And I'd really, love this, this whole male champion space, because I think it's so important, and what you've reflected on throughout this whole yarn is about, it is important to have, to be supporting each other as black fellas, also as men, and also by supporting women as well. So I'm really looking forward to this space that we can create, and that we can just show other people that it is possible. And then that point of difference as well, because there's a lot of women's groups out there. There's a lot of some men's group as well. But how do we, where do we start to connect to where it's appropriate?
Yeah, and if you look at the history, I know we only got 5 minutes. I'm going to be getting growled at here in a minute by Flo. But I guess if you looked at there's always been that history where there's always been men's business and women's business, so you're providing a safe space between those groups, and you do see some of those things where, and especially being in a male-dominated industry, you want, especially for women, to feel safe. But then you've got another subset of that group is where the Indigenous women want to feel safe and have their own group to be empowering themselves, and and that's really important. So we ensure that we have, we've got some beautiful, strong black women on site there, where they're providing help for the ones that are just coming in. And I'll give a shout out to Amy Wilson. She's the one that's been driving that force for those younger women and just existing people on site. And it's just so good to have that. And if you don't have those champions to do that on site, where it's so remote and providing that mental wellness stuff, then fellas will just leave.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's so exciting. I can't wait, because UMOB got some hats on the way. So I can't wait to see these pictures of all you mob and these deadly stories. And Yeah, that'd be really
Yep.
good to see, those faces, because I think that makes a difference as well. Because like you said, with inspirational stories off the Black Fitness page, that's
Yep.
essentially what these stories are doing for us as well. It's really showcasing and raising the profile for Indigenous women on site, because we are, we do feel invisible, especially when we are, do live remotely as well. So it's that, like you telling me before, even before this call, there's your mentor that was a geologist that lives in Mount Isa. And she's an Indigenous woman. Like, to showcase
Yeah.
women and profiles like that, like, it's going to inspire everyone to just to know that they can be more.
Yeah, and that's what we want. It's just to have black fellas to feel that we want them to make them feel safe at the workplace. But if they want to be put up to a shift supervisor, whatever their goals are, we just want to harbour that supportive environment for them to do that. So I just want to see people to be happy and safe and go home, and and then just along the way, just educating people about the culture. That's the most important thing. And the other thing I'll just say really quickly is that, we have our PSI in the morning, like the pre-shift information every morning at 6 when you're on site, and there's always a word of the day and a meaning. So the local group that's in there, that you're always sharing a language name, and then and there's a meaning to it as well. So, that those language elements are pushed around site a lot more now. So it's really good.
That's a really good share. And I think when we were talking about before about language being important and just providing that education piece for the wider group, it makes it a really safe space. And I think that integration, that real subtle integration, is really good. So it'd be good to see how that goes over the long term, and some really good tips for everyone else that's out there that's working, in your space as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the last words there, brother, then. So nice to always have you, have a yarn with you, but it's good to see you, meet you in person, kind of. But yes, any last words that you have for everyone out there that are, all the fellas that are out there supporting other women, but just out there as well?
No, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to talk on this platform. No, I just appreciate it heaps. Glad that I got to meet you. And I love what your page is doing and what your business is doing, and I cannot wait to see what projects we can do in the future. And thanks to all the fellas that are commenting there and whoever's watching and listening. So appreciate it. Thank you. But I still want damper now, so thanks, Tina.
You're busy. You're going to log off and go be making that damper. No, but thank you all for joining us. Thank you for the comments and the questions. Thank you so much, Chris. You would see that Julie loved the support you were giving our women, and it's so important that we keep that support there and just kind of really nurture that, because I think that's the difference that we're going to bring to the table. So thank you very much. I think that's it for us tonight. Thank you all for joining. Stay safe, stay deadly, and thank you, brother. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Flo. See you later.